So, without further ado, I would like to thank you again for joining us for Living Your Life with Your Spin, and I welcome our presenters, Kara, Joyce, and Stephanie. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Beth. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Clarke, and I am the Regional Parent Mentor for Northwestern Wayne County. And I am the mom of two young adults, ages 18 and 20. Both of my guys began their adventure with special education with the Early On program, and both have had IEPs since they were 3. We really like the Spin One pager that we're going to discuss with you today. It has been a very helpful tool in our house, and it is easily adaptable to meet the user where they are. Joyce, would you like to tell everyone a little about yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Joyce, and I am the regional parent mentor for St. Clair and Lapeer counties. I'm also the mom of two young adults, including one who is 21 years old now and has had an IEP since she was 3 months old, also having had participated in the Early On program. I have found the spin tool that we're going to talk about today very helpful in helping my young adult lead the life they want, especially since she sometimes has trouble communicating what her preferences or needs are. And now I'll turn it over to Stephanie.
Hey guys, I'm Stephanie. I'm the training manager at Michigan Alliance for Families. I only have one kid. I don't know how I got to be on this team, but I'm glad to be here. My child is 17 and has had an IEP since the age of 3. One of the things we've really discovered as they've gotten older is that they have a very different opinion on a great number of things, as most teenagers do, than I do. And I've really struggled as a mom to not kind of push my vision onto them. So one of the things I really love about this tool is we've tried a bunch of different things to try and make sure we're building the life that they want to live. And this tool really helps us do that, where it is clean and easy and easy to get input, where it's not my vision anymore, it's their vision because it's not my life. And I have come to terms with this, but need tools to help me do that. So I'm super excited you're here to talk about spin with us today. Before we can kind of dive into the spin sheet, we have to start a little bit thinking about like self-determination and why would we want a tool like this. So really when we're thinking about self-determination, we're thinking about being in charge of our own lives, about each person guiding their own life, that this is not the same thing as being totally independent or being totally self-sufficient, that none of us are those things. We're all interdependent, but it is about making our own choices and taking control and responsibility for our own lives. So when we're practicing self determination, it means that the person whose life it is making those choices and deciding on the experiences that are determining the consequences and benefits of those choices. So you get to reap the rewards and deal with possibly some negatives as well, but that you're leading your life, that you have that choice. The reason, well, there's a lot of reasons why this is so important, but there's a lot of data that supports the importance of having self determination in individualized education programs, so in IEPs. That if we look at studies, we can see that having a self determination goal where the student, young adult is working towards a specific self determination goal means they're more likely to earn a higher income after graduation, so they're going to make more money. They're going to progress further in the general education curriculum. They're going to attain more of their academic and transition goals. They're going to participate more in the community. And most important, highlighted, bolded, all caps at the top, they report a higher quality of life. That having self determination skills where you are making your decisions and you are building that life that you want leads to a higher quality of life. It makes sense. And we want to share this tool of how to do that. On your screen right now, you see a picture of a person who is very happy they made it to the top of this staircase. I really want to point out they didn't just jump there, that they had to take it one step at a time, and we all need tools to be able to take those steps. So we hope you love this tool. There are lots of different tools out there, and you want to find the one that's the right fit for you, because we all need tools to really think about and figure out what the next steps are for us in the lives that we want to be a part of. Today, we're going to focus in on this tool that's your spin. That's your strengths, your preferences, your interests, and your needs. So we're thinking about building our lives around what we're good at. That's your strengths. what we like, those are our preferences, how we want to spend our time, interests, and what works for you, needs. What the tool is we're going to talk about today is really a simple one-page tool to get all this information in one spot. So if you are a young adult, woohoo, I'm so excited you're here. Uh, Parents, professionals, everybody else that's supporting all those young adults, woohoo, I'm excited you're here too, but I really want those young adults in this room. This is really meant to be a one-page all about you, and it's meant to cut through like all that paperwork. If you've seen your IEP or you've seen your student's IEP, you've seen an IEP, it's a pile of paperwork. That's a lot of papers. This is meant to get through the really important stuff quick, all on one page at one glance. And it does that with those 4 big categories. We're going to talk about what we might put in these areas, what information you want to include, and then we're going to walk through like how to use it. So there's a template that you can type into, you can print and write on, you can put pictures on, you can collage on. We're going to show you all sorts of different ways to use that template that is in your handouts. There's even an app that has visual choices that are already there. So we're going to show you how to use all of these, and then you're going to choose the thing that works best for you or for the individual that you're supporting. So welcome. Before we dive in, I want you to think about your life right now. And like I said, hope there's some young adults in the audience today. Think about your own lives, all of you. If you're a parent, you're a sibling, whatever, you're thinking of your own life. Does your spin, your strengths, your preferences, your interests, and your needs shape your life today as we're starting this webinar? And you just saw a poll launch on your screen. Your choices are it totally shapes my life. Sort of. I can see where my spin has some influence on my life. Maybe I want to hear you guys talk more about spin. I don't know what we're talking about yet, or not at all. My spin has no influence on my life. Someone else is in the driver's seat. I'm going to give you guys a moment to respond to that poll. Polls are so mean in Zoom. It says in big red letters, you cannot vote because you're a host. And then let's take a look at those results. Beth, all right. So we got a lot of sort ofs. Half of you said sort of, where it's sort of shaping your life. And then 30% said totally. That's what we want. I mean, we want to have our lives reflect us. We want to be living lives that we enjoy, that we want to be a part of, that are meaningful and valuable to us. And then 20% said maybe. So I'm super excited all of you are here, especially those maybes that are going to get a better understanding of what spin is during our time together today. So thank you all for giving us that better understanding of where we're starting from. Let's dive in a little bit more to this acronym SPIN, strengths, preferences, interests, and needs. Joyce, do you want to start by explaining a little bit more about strengths?
Sure. So let's start by talking about strengths, something that every person has or can develop over time. First, it's really important to understand that being good at something isn't the same as being interested in it. For example, I'm really interested in cake decorating, but I'm not really good at it yet. If I wanted to improve, I could take a class or practice more. That's the great thing about strengths. They're not fixed, we can build them. To help you figure out what your strengths are, you may want to think about what you're good at versus what you can do. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. You may want to think about what you're good at or what you can do well without trying very hard. You could ask your others, your parents, friends, teachers, and keep in mind, the answers you give today may not be the answers you give next month. And that's because our strengths can change throughout our lives. Something I was great at as a teenager may not be a strength I rely on today. For example, when I was a teenager, I had a lot of energy. I could get up early and stay up late.
I remember those days. My body didn't need as much sleep either.
We are different humans. I have always needed sleep and still need sleep.
And that's okay because we grow, we change, and so do our strengths and abilities. And next we'll talk about preferences. Preferences are something that we want. It's not something we need. It's simply how we would ideally like something to be. For example, if I'm reading something, I like it to be very quiet. However, if I'm doing something like cleaning my bedroom or kitchen, I really like to have upbeat music on.
I agree, Joyce. Upbeat and loud music definitely helps me get things done.
Can you even clean if you're not dancing? Is that a thing?
Exactly. And I don't need either of those things to get things done. It's just how I prefer it. Plus, it's a bonus for me to have a little fun while I clean. So as you're completing this section, here are some things to think about. What makes your day, school, or work more enjoyable? What would be nice to have happen, but you would be okay without it? Where do you see yourself in the future? Living, working, doing, for, or having fun? And this looks different for everybody. Take my family example. My future home is very different from where I live right now. Right now, I live in the country and have for quite a long time. It's very rural. We have dirt roads, and I am looking forward to moving to a neighborhood with sidewalks and cement streets. Now, when my son finished college, even though he grew up in the country, he decided he wanted to move to New York City. And now he is smack dab in the middle of Manhattan, and he loves it. And my other young adult who has a disability would prefer to live with her parents. And with that being said, it would be my goal to ensure that she lives an independent life, separate from us, however that may look for her. So now next, Carol's going to talk about interests.
Thanks, Joyce. So for interests, when I'm thinking about interest, I think about the things that get me excited. It's the things that I like and how I like to spend my free time. And here are some questions to help you start thinking about your interest. What are some things that you like? What activities do you enjoy? Are there any groups that you enjoy being a part of? Do you have any hobbies? And, do you participate in any activities after work or school? The answer to these questions are your interests. Another thing to remember is that your interests help build up your strengths. And your interests will change over the years. They may even change month to month as the weather changes. For example, you may like to spend some time outside when the weather is nice, like it has been. But during the winter months, when it's cold and there's snow on the ground, you might want to spend some time working on puzzles or drawing inside where it's nice and warm.
Well, for me, I love going out to eat, and that's something I can do year round, no matter what the weather is.
I try and do the same thing all year, but I love to go to the lakes and look for rocks, and that's something that I will do in the winter in the ice with my little scooper stick, but it is a lot more fun when it's warmer.
Yeah, I agree. I would imagine that the lakes would be a lot more enjoy for me personally. They'd be a lot more enjoyable when the weather is warm. I mean, unless you're a fan of the polar plunge, then go for it. But see, this is the point. The whole point about the intersection is that it's about what you like and what you enjoy. It's about the things that make you happy. And moving on to needs. So the thing with needs is that every person has needs. And what I mean is that every single person on this earth has things that they must have, the things in their life that are non negotiable. Those are our needs. And over time, those needs will change. If you stop and think about it, our needs change constantly. For example, they may change with the weather, the time of day, and where you're at, whether you're at home, at school, or at work. And that's what this section is about, figuring out what we need, the things that we must have. So to help you start thinking about those things, what you must have, here are a few questions to help you start brainstorming. What things do you need to be successful? Do you need assistive technology to help you at school, at work, and at home or in the community?
Hold on, Kara, I'm so sorry, but what's
Yeah.
assistive technology?
Stephanie, that's a fantastic question. Thank you for asking. Assistive technology can be customized or straight off the shelf. It's any tools, high tech or low tech, that assist a person with a disability. It is everything from a high tech communication device to a pencil grip or a mobility aid. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you so much for clarifying.
Thank you. That was, again, thanks for the question. That was a great question. So, thinking about the things that you need to be successful, would a schedule help? or maybe even a checklist, and then you can also lean on other people. So is there something that other people can do to help you? You can also ask yourself about the times that are hard or challenging. What are some things that you find challenging? And when you are faced with a challenge, how do you get through it? How do you deal with it? Is there something specific that you find helpful? I can't help but feel that needs can also mean help. And I say help because of all the things of my tongue gets a little tied here sometimes. Sorry about that. But when I say help, all of the things that we need, they help us. So while it may not be help in the sense of help me, it's help in the sense of support so that we can be successful. Answering questions like these help you discover what you need. And just like our strengths, preferences, and interests, our needs will change, and that is absolutely okay. It's how we grow and why using this tool can be so incredibly helpful. It can be helpful for everyone to identify their needs, not only at school, but at work, at home, and when you're going out in the community.
I kind of go through a checklist or figure out my needs before I walk out of the house. Like sometimes I need to know more about what's going on in my day or in the world to figure out what those needs are, because my needs do change every day.
Exactly. And as I was working on this, I started thinking that we already kind of think about what we need when we're doing things. For example, while I was working on this slide, I needed to be in a place that was quiet so I could concentrate and think, have an area to work, like my desk, and I needed to have access to power so I could plug in my laptop so I could actually use my laptop. I'm sure we all know how useful our electronics are when the battery isn't charged. And taking it a step further, writing it out helps let others know what you need and can also help you be prepared, kind of like a recipe for success. And while we're talking about taking it a step further, how about we take a look at a spin in action? Joyce, do you want to share your spin using the app?
I sure will. So this is an example of the app that you will find on the link that we will share with you in the handout. I thought this app was really helpful. As I mentioned earlier, my young adult has difficulty expressing what her preferences and needs are. So I used this opportunity to go through the app with them. What we liked about the app was that there were options or ideas already provided, so we didn't just have to pull from the sky. She would really struggle to list things she was good at if I asked without options. But with the app, it was easier for her to see that people skills are some of her strengths. We also reviewed that she prefers having a list and a big calendar at home to see what her daily activities are. And we keep that in her bedroom door and update it weekly. And she erases or crosses things off she doesn't like. And that opens up a conversation at our house about why she doesn't like that activity, and we try not to do it again. I learned something about her interests also, that she really likes arts and crafts. I was also able to learn that she does not want to take classes. She just wants to do it for fun when she feels like doing it. When we discussed needs, I was not surprised to discover more time is needed to get moving in the morning. And as her mom, I've known that for over a decade. I was pleased to discover that she knows that too. You can also add things in the app if you find something that was personal to you but not in the app. The nice thing about this app is that you can either print it or save it as a PDF, and we've done both in our home. Next, Carol will share her spin example that she made using pictures.
Thanks, Joyce. And as Joyce said, this is my spin made with pictures. I just did a Google search and found pictures that spoke to me. So when I was looking at this for my strengths, I was thinking about strengths related to my job, some of the things that I feel I'm good at, and then I asked some other people what they felt I was good at because I just needed some input on that. So one of my strengths I feel is organizing, especially when it comes to my job, and especially my work. It's all super organized, including and bringing people together. I like to make sure everyone's voice is heard and that every person feels that their voice matters. Leading and helping others develop their leadership skills. And research, I think my younger self would be surprised to hear this, but research has definitely become something that I feel is a strength. I do it often. When it comes to my preferences, I was thinking about the things in my life that I prefer. And I always prefer to spend time with my family and my friends. I love that cup of coffee and I love my furry friends. My interests and the things that make me happy, that includes concerts and music. I love live music. Even though being in large crowds is not my most favorite thing in the world, when it comes to music, I seriously love getting together with, 30,000 of my closest friends so we can sing along to our favorite songs. Crafting, I'm always looking at new things to make for either my house or as gifts for friends and family. Baking is definitely a passion and something that I truly enjoy. I love playing around with ingredients and creating my own recipes. And my last interest for my spin here is traveling. Exploring is so fun. My family takes at least one good road trip each year, and it's always fun to explore new areas. And for my needs, just like my preferences, my overall needs include my family. When I was working on my spin, I really did take the time to think about how these affect my life. And for me, family is both a preference and a need. For my job, my needs include a calendar or a schedule. I have to put it on my calendar because if it's not on my calendar, it's just not going to happen. And it's one of the things that help me stay organized. I also find that I really need a second computer screen, especially when I'm doing research. And it's so incredibly helpful when I'm looking and working on multiple screens. And next to my glasses so that I can see, that's probably one of the most important needs for me. And here, this is my spin. So as you can see, this is another way to create your spin. There is no right or wrong way. It is all about what is important for and to you. And there's a link on the handout that'll take you to the template where you can create your own spin. And Stephanie, I believe you also created your spin using a lot of words. Would you like to share that with us?
Oh, thank you, Kara. I would love to. Joyce, I love the app example. Thank you so much for doing that. Kara, I love the picture example. Words are not the first thing I would go to if I was going to do my own spin. I want to show you what it looks like. We wanted to show you all sorts of different forms. I think in pictures also. So this was actually an interesting exercise for me to try and challenge like how you represent. I do want to say again, you can type it into the template that's in your handouts, like I did here, or you can print it out and write on it. You can write short phrases. These are not going to be novels or sentences. You want to capture ideas so that you can share those ideas with other people. So when got started, I was thinking about my strengths. I am pretty good at sharing information out loud. I like to talk and I like to listen. So I know this makes me an old lady, but I love to talk on the phone. It's a strength of mine. I'm very good at it. That connection when I listen and hear information is really valuable to me. I want to have that back and forth piece. I know y'all want to text. I'm sorry. I'm going to call you. I want to talk on the phone. It makes a big difference for me. But I am good at communicating in pictures. Visuals help me also. So if you do insist on texting, you might get more photos than words when we're texting. Similarly, when I'm looking at visuals, I can see patterns and then I can put them in an order that helps other people understand them. I was struggling coming up with my strengths. Like this is something that felt like a stretch to me. This didn't feel like something that was a strength was even listing my strengths. So I asked other people, like Kara did also, and I discovered that my friends think that I'm easy to talk to and trustworthy. So those are nice qualities. I'm glad other people see those in me. I think those are valuable. I am really good at keeping a lot of plants alive. I think having a lot of plants might be an interest, but keeping them alive is a strength, and I am creative and like to make things and look at things in different ways. Thinking about things that I like, what my preferences are, so not things that I need, but things that I prefer. Um, I like to have a to-do list. I like to check things off on my to-do list. That is my preference, is to swipe my pen across my paper a lot of times. I like to have a house with gardens. I like working with other people. I think that when I can chat with someone or consider another perspective, it makes my work better. It helps me be more productive. And I like to spend out some time outside when I can. Every day is my preference, but we live in Michigan and we know that sometimes that's not what happens. As far as my interests, this is thinking about your free time. This is when you can do anything what you want to do. These might be your hobbies, they might be your clubs, your sports, all of those kinds of things. I take a pottery class that I prioritize and plan into my schedule, that I make sure that that time is set aside for this thing that I am interested in that helps me be a better balanced person. I set aside time to go for walks outside in nature. I told you already that I love to go to the beach and look for the rocks. I also like to swim and play with my dogs and spend that time outside doing those things with water. As far as my needs, these are my non negotiables for success. These are the things that I require. And again, you see that they're different for the three of us, they're different for everybody. And everybody has needs. Having needs is not unique to one person. What your needs are is going to be different based on you as a human being. So I need 7 hours of sleep or I do not function. That was true when I was 17, and it's true at whatever age this might be right now. I have a hard time keeping an eye on the clock throughout the day. So I need alarm reminders for medicines that are time sensitive. I utilize my phone as something to help me for those things that are important that they happen at a specific time, to make sure that for our health, that's a priority, that's a need. I also use a whole bunch of different calendars. And I went back and forth on if this is a need, but this allows me to be successful, which I think does make it a need. So I use a paper, a digital, and a whiteboard calendar. I've tried a whole bunch of different things, and you're going to find different things will support your needs at different times, and those will change as well. For me, right now, I keep everything on the electronic calendar and I look at the whole month on paper and then I look at a week on a whiteboard. That gives me different perspectives on it, that lets my brain process it where it all gets in a different way. And then I make it to all of my appointments, which is kind of important. Again, everybody's spin is going to look different. So this is an example of spin just with words. The really cool thing um, about young adults with IEPs is that you have this really safe space to practice sharing your spin. So we all shape our lives around your spin. You just heard what lives look like with spin. Your IEP team, which includes you, the individual, and the parent, and your school staff, meet to figure out the best program to meet your individual needs. Individualized education program just for you. This team comes together to communicate the best program for you. They get together to figure out what works best for you. And this is a really, really, really great place to practice sharing your spin, to put your spin on your school day, to make sure your strengths, preferences, interests, and needs are a part of your day. Like as a young adult, you spend a significant part of your day at school. Making sure your spin shapes that day and practicing with your IEP team how you can self advocate and share this information so that you can do that in more spaces as you grow. Kara, I think you have a story from an actual IEP meeting. Is that right?
I sure do, Stephanie. And this is a real life example of a one-pager spin that was created at the time by a high school junior. And full disclosure, I do have his permission to share this and his story. And even fuller disclosure, this is my son. um, so typically when we're preparing for an IEP, I would ask him a few questions and then he would write out a statement. And that's what he would share at his IEP. However, this year, we took some time to sit down and really use the tools that we have. And my son completed this one pager. I asked him some prompting questions like Joyce and I were sharing earlier when we talked about the strengths, preferences, interests, and needs. And then he provided the answers. He shared this document and we just did this on the computer. And just as a FYI, this is the old version. They did update the form. So this is what they had earlier. So when you look at it, the form might look a little different, but it's still the same content. So my son shared this document with his IEP team during his meeting, and then we asked that it be shared with the rest of his teachers. When this was pulled out and put on the table, the first response we heard was an audible gasp. Where did this come from? Was followed quickly after. And my son responded by saying that he completed this. He was very proud by that, I must add too. And I was super proud of him for that as well. The adults around the table were amazed, especially because there's so much detail in this that is usually really hard to get from him. One of his teachers has mentioned that they had been working on transition plans and said that they would much prefer something like this over any of the transition tool that they had seen because this is real life, it's relatable, it's now, And this is the student's voice. The social worker really liked this because, again, it's his words. And that is so powerful for everyone, but especially when you have students that may have a hard time expressing their thoughts. The prompts are realistic and can easily be made relatable to the student at whatever level they may be, as opposed to some of the standardized type questions and tools that are out there. My son also had his first work experience this summer, and he also used the spin and created his spin for his job, and he shared that with his job coach. He is finding that this is a really good way for him to advocate for himself without having to have the actual conversations. He's not usually comfortable talking about some of these things. So for him, that he's able to write this and share it in writing, it saves having those actual conversations. And that in itself is a huge tool for him. That's a huge win for him, period. So by using this in school during his IEP and at work, he's able to let everyone know what he needs to be successful. During his IEP, there were some things that his team did not realize that help him. So this was super incredibly helpful for him. It's something that the team is talking about using with all of their students. So I hope that this helps bring into focus about using it in an IEP meeting. But don't forget, that's not the only place where you can use your spin.
Your spin can be used anywhere you choose. You can share your spin both inside and outside of school. Based upon what we've discussed so far, where would you share your spin? We'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to share your answer in the chat. And while you answer, we're going to keep our conversation going. You may want to create a spin that is specific for what you're doing. For example, starting a new job with a job coach. This is a great opportunity and tool to use with your job coach. Sharing your spin lets them know what your strengths, the things that you like, what you're interested in, specifically what you need, especially when you create that spin based on your job. Once they review your spin, they'll know how they can better support you.
Now, keep in mind, creating your spin does not have to be difficult at all. It just takes a little time and thought from you, and that's it. Deciding your own path can be scary at times. I know there's been times when it's been scary for myself. And again, that's totally okay. But during those scary times and challenging times, it's nice to have and be able to use the tools to help you get to the other side where it's not so scary. And using your spin can be one of those tools. Before we go any further, how about we take a look at some of the responses from the chat?
Great idea.
Thanks.
It looks like someone has said you could share with your friends or family, you could share with school staff, could share with support people.
That's great ideas. Oh, the bus driver, that is an excellent idea and a fantastic way to use it as well. Thank you so much for sharing those with us.
We have even used this as like trying to figure out what's next for ourselves and self-reflection, where we're like, what kind of job do I want? Or how do I want to fill my days? What are the things I want to make sure I prioritize or make important when I'm making my plans? So we've used this to think about how we want to build our lives also.
Absolutely.
Earlier, I shared my daughter's spin with you, and by completing this activity, we learned that she really likes arts and crafts. So we shared her spin with her community living supports worker, and somebody had mentioned that in the chat as well. And that was a great way to communicate to that person what my daughter likes to do when they are out and about. And the support worker was happy to have the information, and by having it, she knew she could then plan better community outings with and for my daughter. So as you see, this tool can be beneficial in many different parts of your life.
You can share your spin with whomever you choose. We've already talked about sharing it with your school, with your IEP team, and with your teachers, with bus drivers, as someone stated in the chat. And we've mentioned sharing it with your job coach. But there are many more people you may want to share it with, as such as your supports coordinator, those involved with your individualized plan of service from community mental health, just as like Joyce was talking about, even your medical team, including your doctors or dentists, or if you're an athlete, you might want to share it with your coach. You can share it with anyone else that you work with. That's the great thing about the spin. It is entirely up to you.
When you are starting the school year, It's great to communicate all sorts of information about you. And when you were younger, your parents may have done something like the student snapshot to share at school. And we did have a couple webinar a couple weeks ago sharing tools for student snapshot that's on that same handouts page where you can find us if you scroll down a little bit today. There's also a video of that webinar if you want to check it out. So those are still there, and those were great tools for someone else communicating about you, but now you can communicate about yourself. That this is now a tool that you can share the information to start your school year from your voice. That sharing with all those school folks, making sure you're putting your spin on your day. Think about your day. Maybe brainstorm with a friend or a family member. Think about how your spin might shape your day. That your strengths and preferences help your day run smoother and make your day more enjoyable. Maybe you set yourself up for success by making sure you pack your favorite snack in your backpack the night before. Maybe your school team makes sure that you have audiobooks because you learn better when you hear the information. I told you one of my strengths is keeping plants alive. One of the ways that I structure my day is I water my plants in the morning as I start my day. It's kind of like meditation for me. It allows me to clear my head and start my day on the right foot. I also told you that I need 7 hours of sleep a day. So that means that I plan my bedtime with enough time for me to have that time watering my plants that I enjoy in the morning before I dive into my day. So I'm thinking about my strengths, my preferences, my interests, and my needs to plan and structure my day and my life. That's what I want you guys to do going into the school year. What sets you up for success? What makes your days better? How do you make sure your needs are met? How are you building on your strengths? One of the really cool things about high school is it's this really awesome opportunity to explore interests. That you have clubs, you have sports, you have all sorts of different things that you're never going to have like this access to again. You can check out all those activities. You can discover what interests are passions for you, and you may find things that stick with you for a lifetime. Um, Maybe you feel like the offerings at school are not your jam. Explore other things then. Think about what you're interested in and how you can explore those, how you can spend time on your interests to make your life enjoyable to you. Is there a community group you want to be involved in? Maybe there's an esports team at school, and if that's not your thing, maybe there's a D&D group at your local comic book store. Like figuring out how to connect both with your people and with your passions. Communicate your needs. Make sure your needs are met at school as you're structuring your day. Ask your IEP team, which includes you and your parents, for help if your needs are not currently being met. Your public school's responsibility is to meet your unique needs in academic, non academic, and extracurriculars. So, all those clubs, all those sports I was just talking about that you can explore, you can have IEP supports in those areas if they're needed to meet your unique needs. I would love to open our poll back up again. I think you can tell that Joyce, Kara, and I love this tool. We hope that you can see how it can be useful for your self reflection and how it's useful to share with other people. I want to circle back a little bit differently to that question that we started with. We started with, does your spin already shape your life? Now we want to know, do you want your spin to shape your life? You have a better picture of what spin is. We have these same options again. Totally, 100%. I want my spin to shape my life. Sort of, I want my spin to have influence, but I would like someone else to make some of my decisions. Maybe I'm still not sure, or absolutely not. I don't know what you ladies were talking about today. Not at all. Do I want my spin to shape my life? And I'm going to give you guys a moment to respond here. And let's go ahead and close that poll. And 70% of you totally want your spin to shape your life. That is awesome. I also want my spin to shape my life. 20% are saying sort of, and 10% are saying maybe. Check out the tools, see what you think. Start to brainstorm yourself and see what you find and how that can have influence. We know this is kind of a different perspective than starting the school year with like your student snapshot where your parents are telling about you. we want to make sure that we left some time today to talk about your questions, what makes sense, what didn't make sense, how we can clarify. So we would love for you to type those questions in the chat, that we do have some time for questions while we're still together today. Beth, did anything happen in the chat already?
We don't have any questions yet, but I'm sure if we give it just a moment, they will have some come up. Oh, we do. Can you explain again the difference that is between a student snapshot and the spin?
Both are really great tools, and they can both be good tools depending on the time and the person. So your student snapshot is typically going to be written from the viewpoint of the parent, where you're going to share information about your child, and you may ask your child for input, and then you're going to share that with the school team. The spin is really by the perspective of the individual. The questions are about you. They're not about your kid. They're about you and your life, and they're intended to be represented of that human being. And that's one of the reasons why there's so many different ways to do it with the app, with pictures, with words, with typing, with writing, with collage, with whatever works, is so that no matter where the person is at or their best communication method, they are able to share their own spin. So a student snapshot is typically like third person, where the parent is making it, where the spin sheet is first person, where the person whose spin we're talking about is creating the spin in whatever method works for them.
All right, we do have another question. How often do you sit down and redo your spin? Is this a once a year thing, twice a year thing?
So you can redo the spin as often as you need to. It would depend on the situation. So if it's for school, for example, you may want to do it once or twice a year. Your IEP is done once a year, so doing it at least once a year is a really great thing. If you're doing it for your job, base it on your needs, for example. So if you're starting a new job, maybe do it once, but if your needs are changing, then at that point, you would want to redo your spin at that point.
All right, and we do have one more question. They asked, is there a list of items that my child can pick from? They have a hard time thinking of what to add into different areas.
So I'm actually going to pull up our handout on the screen. So this is that link that Beth keeps sharing in the chat. And then here are those, the whole Return to School series. We are here on Spin, Living Your Spin. I'm going to click on this. You're going to see this brief overview of Spin and then the resources, where this guidance, oops, open, shows you some like prompting questions that you can use while you're talking through with your daughter of what we're thinking of. But what you're asking for specific examples, you're going to find in the app. So if we click, I'm going to click on the template because I'm in order and I sometimes have to do things that way. Sorry, guys. This is where you can type. This is where all your information can be when you're filling it out with this guide. And then in the app, it's going to ask you for your name first. We're gonna get started. You can upload your own photo. This is show you how. And when you get in here, it says, here's what a strength is. It's something you believe you or others are good at. You do well at school, at home, or the community, or an area in life that doesn't need improvement. And it's going to provide you these examples that you can choose from in academic, extracurricular, and relationships. And as you move through the different areas, strengths, preferences, interests, and needs, it's going to have examples to start from in all of these areas. Joyce also mentioned you could customize it. So if you, a strength is like your pet care, you could choose plus and you can put in, you don't need to see all my files, sorry guys. You could put in the pet and you could choose a photo to add where when you save your PDF at the end, these images that you select will be there and you can add your own images through the app as well. And it looks like from the comments in the chat, that makes sense. I just want to make sure you guys knew exactly where to find the tools and what the tools look like. Any other questions today?
Doesn't look like we have any more questions right now. But then again, if a question comes up to you later that you're like, oh man, I should have asked that, please reach out to your regional parent mentor. They would love to be able to help you with this. They would love to be able to get you your resources for your spin. Again, you are welcome to reach back out to the handouts to look over things. And we will have this presentation on our YouTube by next week. So you are also welcome to subscribe to our YouTube channel and get that notification when we post this. And then you'll be able to rewatch this in case another question comes up if you're like, oh man, I just need to hear what Kara said about that one more time. And then you're able to do that. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us and please subscribe to our YouTube. So again, thank you ladies so much for all this information. Your spin is so very useful and we really appreciate all of your expertise on it. So thank you again.